Yes, hello everybody. So, the Eubank Benn fight is off, it seems. Yeah, off for good because Conor Benn has tested positive for some kind of banned substance, and of course, the fight cannot happen then. Yeah, well, anyway, just as well, I guess, because, you know, I think most of us agree that this was a mismatch, and this fight never should have been made in the first place, of course. And so, just another proof of just how greedy, I guess, Eddie Hearn has become now. He's just so keen on making a big money, money maker, a big fight with, fight that will he knows will sell because of certain factor, and this factor is the names, of course, the rivalry of their fathers, which I don't like really, that they have now again brought to life, or they attempted to bring it to life, so because Chris Eubank Jr. was talking against Nigel Benn, like, oh, he assaulted my father. He said he hated him on national television. I cannot forgive him. Blah blah blah. And Conor Benn, I'm sure, says a few things as well. I don't think he said anything about Chris Senior, but yeah. Anyway, I just didn't like this fight from the get go, and yeah, now, of course, Chris Eubank Sr. was very against it. He was really doing his best to get it stopped, and I commend him for that. I think that was a noble thing because he was thinking of his son's well-being. How can a guy that's never fought below 160, that's the middleweight, right? Uh, how can he now suddenly go below that weight? Then now that he's been a super middleweight for so long, rather some time. Now he's 33, so he's he's a pretty big guy. I mean, he's not so tall, but he's still not a small guy in any way. So he's grown into 168 very, nicely, and think this would have been very bad for him. I mean, he has already had started on this process of losing weight. So now I hope that this hasn't really affected him. Well, anyway, I think it would have been really potentially dangerous for him if he had gone on with the fight and then gotten a beating, because in that state when you are like dehydrated and weight drained, as they call it. It's not good. I mean, you are more sensitive, of course, more sensitive and more likely to get stopped in a fight than when you are not, when you are in a like normal, kind of acceptable condition. Yeah, so this was just one stupid idea from the start. I mean, that's one thing that I don't like about Eddie Hearn. I mean, he was like, for instance, it's not that I really blame him for this, but when Mike Towell, the boxer who died, I believe that was in 2016, and he fought Dale Evans, and they really built up this rivalry. I mean, I thought that Hearn played too much on this to get the fight hyped up. And what happened? Mike Dow actually had a serious brain condition, brain damage, and he got knocked out and he died. So that's what happened. I was kind of angry at Eddie Hearn for you know, just playing on this kind of feelings. I mean, some sort of bad, ill feelings between those two guys. There was some kind of trash talk going on and stuff, but that's very usual, in this sport, unfortunately. But when somebody dies, I mean, after, you know, because I'm not saying, of course, this was all like, I'm not blaming really anybody, but I'm saying that maybe if there was no, how they say, beef going on between Towel and the Evans, maybe then the fight wouldn't have ended as it did. But when you are really, in a feud with someone, you really want to punish them, more than when you are not. You know what I want to say? You want to punish them, right? So that's the same that Conor Benn would have done to Chris Eubank Jr. Definitely. You could see there was no love lost between those two. You could see the Conor looked pretty, angry, and Chris Jr. was like, smirking and saying, "Oh, you are not so big, you are smaller than I thought." And Conor was like, "Well, you know what they say about big guys." He looked like he really wanted to, lay a beating on Eubank Jr. because, and regardless of whether he would have been able to knock him out or not, I believe that he would have, dished out enough punishment because this fight was more, how to say, suited for him fighting at just above welterweight. He is a welterweight. Then for Chris Jr., who is a super middleweight, having to go down two classes in weight. So, you know what I want to say. I mean, Chris Eubank Jr. could have been really, harmed. So I'm really, I'm happy that this fight didn't happen, despite, and it was a pay per view. It was gonna be a pay per view. Come on, a pay per view. It's really kind of ridiculous, So that's just shows you the greed, of certain promoters. Eddie Hearn was like, "Oh, we got sons of two guys that used to hate each other, were main rivals in this division, back in the '90s, and yeah, why not make it a pay per view? It will sell. Why not?" So yeah, I think Eddie Hearn is kind of losing a lot of respect that he used to have because he's just looking to cash in on these very personal feelings between families who are or were at war with each other. And regarding all what happened with Conor Benn getting caught cheating, that's even worse. I mean, that just proves to you how eager he was to win this fight and beat up Chris Eubank Jr. because he was doing steroids so he could increase his muscle mass so he could hit harder and just make the weight more comfortably. And he would have actually been the bigger man that night if the fight would have happened because despite the height, he would have been uh, simply physically stronger, bigger because Eubank would have been seriously weakened by going down, in weight so much. So yeah, yes, we can be. I mean, Chris Senior can draw a breath of relief now, and but until I mean, it's obvious that Hearn was trying to still make this fight until the very end because It wasn't until yesterday that they, announced, and they had a public workout like I think the day before, yeah. So on on a Wednesday, yeah, Wednesday. So it looked like until almost the last second that the fight would go on. So all these documentaries they were making and you know interviews with both guys, and it's all just a cash cow, man. I'm really starting to like this sport less because of this kind of dirty, dirty business. It's not all right because people can be seriously injured, right? It's very irresponsible. Both of Herno, and everybody who was, who approved this fight, the British boxing board of control, and whoever, yeah, think they should all be, if not ashamed, they should, have a serious talk with themselves, and ask how could we have allowed this to happen. So that was all. Thank you. Bye bye.